Welcome to Byrna's Hot Take, where we discuss tactics, tips, training, and all things related to self-defense so that if the time comes, you are prepared to defend. Today, I have a very special guest for you guys. We're here with Lanny Barnes, Olympic shooter and just kind of shooting extraordinaire, to talk to you today a little bit about her story as a competitive shooter and now as one of the primaries here at Prairie Fire, and just how she's really incorporated that lifestyle into her everyday activities. Lanny, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Especially on this very non-normal Vegas day where we're out here, it's cold, it's rainy. But thanks for staying out here and braving the weather with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's so awesome to join Byrna on this podcast and talk to all the wonderful Byrna fans out there. And, yes, this is an odd day for Prairie Fire, but we're pretty tough. I think we can battle through this.
I have zero doubt. You especially. So it's going to try to wash us out here, but I think we're going to be okay. So really to start off with, Lanny, I want you to introduce yourself to Byrna Nation and just kind of tell them, who you are and how you got to where you are now through the whole competitive shooting, how you got started in it, and kind of where it's brought you through the years.
Absolutely. So I think everything in my life has revolved around shooting. I'm a 3-time Olympian and professional shooter, and I was very fortunate. My dad was very passionate about shooting, so he took us 3 girls, my sisters and I, out. Taught us how to hunt and shoot, and we really fell in love with it at an early age. And from there, it just kind of blossomed into jumping into shooting sports. And there we discovered biathlon, which was cross-country skiing and shooting, and a ton of fun, a lot of hard work, but a very different sport, and we just really fell in love with it. And
so, what where did you start in shooting? Were you shooting, rifles on a ranch, or was it more pistols in a range, or kind of how did you get into it as a kid?
Yeah, so we my sisters and I grew up in the country, and we were mostly shooting rifles on the ranch, gotcha. And plinking cans and things like that, and then jumped into small bore prone, which is basically just laying down with a rifle, trying to be as accurate as possible. And we met a guy there, and he noticed that we were juggling soccer ball and kind of running around in between the shooting bouts while everybody else was just trying to calm their heart rate down. And he's like, "You girls are in the wrong sport. You should try biathlon. It seems like more your thing." And we looked it up and thought, well, this could be a lot of fun. Being Coloradans, combining the skiing and the shooting, we thought that'd be perfect. So just fell in love with it.
That's awesome. So, I haven't gotten the opportunity to talk to a whole lot of biathletes, and what is the secret? You kind of talked about how you guys are pretty good at not worrying about bringing your heart rate down and whatnot. And is that how do you balance that that physical stress with having to shoot a stage?
Yeah, so biathlon is a very difficult sport because we're doing the physical aspect of skiing, and then we had come into the shooting range, and you go from something where you're physically exerting yourself really hard, and then you have to relax. And the way the sport is developed and evolved, you actually try to shoot with as high a heart rate as possible.
Really?
So we try to usually have our heart rate around 180 beats per minute. And the reason being is it actually makes it easier to shoot when your heart rate's higher. If you think of an EKG, the more time between beats, the higher or the more barrel movement you get, and the higher your heart rate, the less time between beats. So, at 140, 160, your barrel's going to be like this. 180, it's going to be more like a hum, so it makes it easier to shoot if you can handle it mentally.
Well, and that's, on a previous podcast, if you guys remember, we talked about physical stress on the body and physiological stress and how to kind of mitigate that in a critical incident. That's really what you're doing, is you're really just separating that mental physical stress and mitigating that into being able to still shoot with consistency and accuracy. And that's so how do you train for that, I guess, aside from just going out and skiing and shooting, is there a better way to kind of train for being used to shooting with your heart rate so high? Yeah,
so that's a great point that you brought up earlier about the physiological aspects of shooting and controlling your heart rate and things like that. There's certain things that you can and cannot control when you're physically exerting yourself or in a stressful situation. The one thing you can't control is your heart rate. it's a good thing that
It's
we
gonna do
can't
what it's
just
gonna do.
shut our heart rate off and, be like, all right, I'm going to stop it, because that'd be a deadly
Detrimental.
mistake. But there's certain things we can control, like our breathing. And people talk about tactical breathing or things like that. It actually makes a huge difference if you really focus on breathing in your training and learn how to use that to what we call breathing reset. If you take a couple of really deep breaths when you're in a stressful situation, it forces your body to relax. Because when you breathe in, like when you get scared or something, you suck your breath in, you're getting really tense, but by forcing that air out, it relaxes you. So just by breathing and taking some deep breaths in and out, that forces your body into a more homeostasis and getting into that relaxation state. So that can be really important. And then just learning techniques on, training by visualization and things like that. The more you can get yourself in those situations, the easier it is for your body when you actually encounter a stressful situation.
See, that I had no idea that there was such the parallel between, something like the biathlon, which is, very, calculated and just an ultra competitive sport, as to, processing the physiology of a critical incident utilizing the same techniques. And it really sounds like that really kind of is, there is a direct parallel there, which is so interesting. So,
absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's basically the same thing. The fight or flight response is no different in competition as it is in a self-defense situation. It's just a different level of intensity. So in a self-defense situation, obviously your life is on the line. It's going to be a much higher level of intensity than it would be in competition, but the same physiological and psychological aspects that you're dealing with.
That's absolutely incredible. So going from the biathlon and doing the biathlon, and is that where you competed in the Olympics, is in the biathlon?
Yep,
Awesome.
correct. Yeah.
So going from the biathlon, then where did you go kind of in your, kind of shooting career?
Yeah, so after I retired in 2014, that was my third Olympics, and jumped into three-gun and a lot of other different shooting sports. Three-gun is rifle, pistol, shotgun, and you're navigating kind of a course of fire, kind of run and gun style. Getting the heart rate up a little bit, but not quite to the same point. Not as much running as we did in biathlon, but a lot more shooting, and so much fun. Just a lot of fun. It helped me become a good all-around shooter.
No, I can imagine. So you've been kind of on the three-gun tour for a while now. Is that predominantly what you're competing in now, or is that?
Yeah, I mean, I do three-gun, PCC, IPS shotgun, and just rifle competitions and stuff. But I'd say three-gun is kind of my main focus.
I was going to say, what's your favorite? Would it be three-gun?
I think so, yeah.
And is that just because you get to incorporate kind of all of it in one, in kind of one competition?
I would say yeah, and I'm kind of one of those crazy people where the harder it is, the more I like it. And with three-gun, you can't just be good at one thing. You have to be good at all of them. And so it forces you to learn a lot of different aspects instead of just one thing. With handgun, obviously it's totally different techniques than you'd learn when shooting rifle or shotgun. So you kind of have to learn them all and be able to focus on each individual one at that moment. So,
going from shooting three-gun and competing, where did training kind of really enter, or instruction, I guess, on your side? Where did that kind of enter the picture, throughout that career?
So my twin sister and I, we both competed in the Olympics together, and then three-gun as well a little bit. But we started teaching people and training people early on in our biathlon career, because we had that shooting background. There's a lot of people in biathlon that didn't have, they were skiers, but they didn't know how to shoot. So we did a lot of teaching of, firearms, a lot of rifle, airsoft, things like that early on, and then continued that and really, I'd say that's one of our biggest passions, is teaching people and giving back. And, that's one thing I'm excited about this place is, we're offering people a place to come and train and improve their skills regardless of what they kind of shooting or self-defense or anything that they like to do.
So yeah, let's talk about Prairie Fire. So if you guys aren't familiar with Prairie Fire, which is where we're at today, it's kind of right in between Vegas and Pahrump, out here in Nevada, and tell them about the facility out here, because it's this is my first time visiting, and I've been completely blown away. So yeah, tell them about just the facility out here and what you guys have.
Yeah, so we were very lucky. We purchased this facility out of bankruptcy December 2nd. It's formerly called Front Sight. A lot of people in the industry know it as Front Sight, but we bought it out of bankruptcy, totally different company, and we're basically 45 minutes from the Strip, and it's one of the most beautiful ranges I've ever been on.
Absolutely gorgeous.
And there's so much space and so many things that we can do here. We're just looking to build it up into, kind of what we call the Disney World of shooting, where we hope it's going to be one of the best ranges in the world.
Yeah, it's so you guys have, if I remember the numbers correctly, what is it? 550 acres of land total. How many ranges on the property?
We have 50 bays ranging from 25 yards up to 800, but we also have a lot of different things between our natural terrain. We have 3 incredible canyons that we can utilize for training. We have tunnels, we have a ropes course. There's so many different things that we can do out here. It helps us to get really creative.
And then what's on, kind of what's on the board for the future out here as far as, what are you guys planning on here in the next, year or two?
Well, our first goal is to try to improve upon the ranges. I mean, they're incredible and beautiful as is, but we're going to upgrade all the targetry and, add on to make them even better. And then, add things like permanent bathrooms instead of porta potties, and then, one of our biggest goals is to get our first pro shop in with restaurant and things like that. Eventually, we're going to have 500 RV spaces.
That's incredible.
Hotel, 3 different pro shops, and just kind of make this a place where if people enjoy shooting, and even if they don't, because we're going to have activities like mountain biking, ATVing, all sorts of the ropes course. So even if you don't enjoy shooting, this is going to be some place where you can have a great, true American experience and really enjoy yourself.
Yeah, and one of the things that we were talking about earlier that really struck me is just your passion to cater to everyone. Not just the high-end consumer that wants a bunch of just a bunch of high-end experiences, but just the guys that want to come in, guys and girls who just want to come in, shoot on the weekends, and that's so. It sounds like you're really trying to really cater to that full audience.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we want to make sure that anybody and everybody can enjoy this place. It's such an incredible place, and we're glad that we were able to purchase it because it could have easily turned into a housing development. And,
absolutely.
One more range that disappears, but. We want to make this available for everybody, regardless of their budget and their lifestyle, and we also want to make it available. If someone comes here for a class, we want to make sure that they can bring their family, and their family has options to do things that they enjoy too. So, and they don't always have to be firearms related. We're going to offer lots of activities that don't necessarily revolve around shooting. So,
what kind of classes are you guys currently doing out here, and what kind of training, kind of are you planning in the future, for that clientele?
Yeah, so the last couple of months we've been in the process of retraining our staff, and they're absolutely amazing. All the people here on site, all of our staff are really incredible, and right now we're just doing kind of basic handgun rifle classes, and we're building on our curriculum so that you can start at that level and then basically head down any path you want to, whether it's in competition or self-defense or just improving your shooting skills. We're going to have a path for everybody, regardless of what you like to shoot and all the different styles of shooting that there is out there.
That's so cool. So you kind of hit it, talking there about self-defense. We see a lot of competitive shooters out there, and some of them are just that. They're just competitive shooters. But do you feel like growing up in that environment, not just the competitive environment, but, like you said, learning to shoot, rifles on the ranch at an early age, does that upbringing, does that training, and then does your competitive background, how does that translate into your daily life when it comes to just self-defense and situational awareness and kind of how you go about everyday life?
Well, I think a big part of my situational awareness and wanting to get into self-defense and protecting myself and things like that came from, a lot of my travels and being a 5'3", 110-pound woman and, wanting to make sure that, at the end of the day, myself and everybody around me was safe. And I think growing up, on a ranch and hunting and things like that, that helped me to develop situational awareness. Obviously from hunting, you just have to be aware of little things, to be a successful hunter, as far as, finding game and things like that. But, in the self-defense situations, it's one of those things where I think you can avoid a lot of situations if you're aware of what you're doing. But at the end of the day, you have to make sure that whatever you do, you wanna come home to your family, and try to avoid all bad situations at all costs, but also be ready to protect yourself if need be.
So, and I don't mean to put you on the spot here, because we didn't talk about any of this, but when it comes to self-defense, and you kind of said it there, being a 5 foot, 310-pound female, there's certain things that you have to consider that maybe others don't. And being, an instructor in self-defense and firearms and all that, if you had to, kind of tell somebody in a very short format, like some of the key things that they can do, to help improve that situational awareness or just that self-defense readiness, what would those things be for anybody or for somebody, that's kind of like you as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, one of the big things, and we just kind of briefly touched on it earlier, is just visualizations and role play and things like that. I mean, it's so hard to train for self-defense because we don't ever want to be in that situation, but just unfortunately sometimes it just happens. So preparing yourself mentally. I mean, in competition, we visualized our course and our course of fire and things like that over and over again, so that when we got there, all we had to do was focus on muscle memory and not worry about the stresses and the pressures of everything else around us. And it's no different for self-defense. If you don't kind of visualize, like, you don't want to be paranoid, but at the same time you want to be prepared. So visualizing, like, what you'd do in a situation if you were heading to your car and you had someone following you. Do I get in my car? Do I, head back into the store? What do I do in those situations? And by preparing yourself that way, you can really help yourself to avoid getting into a lot of situations and or be prepared if you ever had to defend yourself.
That's a great tip. That's something that you can do anywhere. We talk a lot about having to do drills or to train and to having a facility to do that, but literally driving in your car or sitting at the house or whatnot, visualizing, hey, these are the things that I can do in a certain situation is something you can do anywhere, and so key in planning for that success and setting yourself up for success. That's a great tip. The other thing, obviously, being Byrna and being a less lethal company, we always talk about options, and it's interesting, you're talking and chatting with you, who's grown up in such a gun culture as part of your everyday life. When it came to learning and then hunting, and that's just kind of the way you live, especially in the country. Like you said, hunting, you gotta be situational aware to track and to make sure that you're not, you're not so delved into what you're doing that everything else is you're unaware of other dangers that might be out there. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like, how do you feel that less lethal options in self-defense can be a part of someone's everyday life, especially coming from that gun culture?
Oh, I think it's great because that at the end of the day, nobody wants to take a life or anything like that, and I think that less lethal, especially in places where firearms aren't allowed, is a great way of protecting yourself. I mean, I travel all the time everywhere, and I carry a Byrna, and
you're going back and forth from here in Colorado a lot, aren't you?
Absolutely. So, and there's just times where carrying a firearm isn't appropriate, but having a less lethal option is. Even for, I mean, just in my training, we get chased by dogs all the time and things like that, and sometimes that can help in avoiding getting bit in the leg or something, and so I think it's one of those things where people have to, if you choose to use the right of self-defense, you need to take the time to figure out the training and what's best for you, because firearms aren't for everybody. And, I think that a less lethal option is for everybody. And again, both of those options should come with training and responsibility and things like that. And it's awesome that the Byrna Nation is out there helping to train people and educate people on what they should do.
I think you hit the nail on the head. We talk about that a lot, about really kind of having that self-reflection and making sure that if you're going to carry a gun, you're prepared for that, and you're prepared for the consequences that brings. But if you're going to, whatever you're going to carry, that you're prepared and you're trained to do that, not only physically but mentally as well. So I mean, that's a great sentiment, and just you really kind of summed it up, and that's great. So just to kind of sum things up and to kind of close it out, Prairie Fire. If they want to learn more about Prairie Fire, where can they go to do that?
Absolutely. So they can go to our website, prairiefire.com, and we're going to be updating it with more and more information as we build this beautiful facility out.
When's when can they plan for coming out for, not necessarily grand opening, but really when it's going to really start being open to the public to start memberships and stuff like that?
Yeah, so our memberships will open up May 1st, and then we'll be, I think you can start signing up for classes now. And I mean, we have a limited class schedule right now, but as we grow and as we build this facility out, we're going to add more and more classes to the schedule. So check it out at prairiefire.com, and hope to see you guys out here.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Lanny. Thanks, Byrna Nation, for being here. Make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube channel so you get all the latest updates, and then feel free to download the podcast on all your major podcast platforms like iTunes, Apple, Amazon, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time on Byrna's Hot Take to make sure that if the time comes, you are prepared to defend.